on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday. With us this morning is Beth Jocelyn Roth. She is Executive Director for Safe Tennessee Project. Nice to have her on. As you see, we're talking about gun safety and policies, and as she's told us, the grassroots organization dedicated to addressing the epidemic of gun violence. They're not advocating getting rid of guns, so don't worry about that. That's not what we're talking about this morning, or they do support the Second Amendment. Just trying to find the ways to make all of us safer, acknowledging the fact that people are going to own guns, and that's great. Let's go to some more phone calls, or we'll start off with Joe, actually. Hi, Joe.
Morning, Nick.
Good morning, Joe.
Just a couple of comments here. I think stronger background checks are needed, and stronger sentences for convicted felons, especially the ones that's been convicted of crimes, not white-collar crimes, say, but violent crimes. And I'd like to know if the lady is a gun owner, and if she is, does she have a gun permit? And I think if you look at the statistics on this, most shootings are committed by people that are not gun permit holders and are convicted felons.
Yeah, okay. You want to address that, first of all?
Sure. I do actually own a gun. I purchased a gun myself at a gun show from an unlicensed dealer who did not require a background check, nor did he even require me to provide him my driver's license.
Which, again, in Tennessee is legal.
Which is legal. That was a completely legal transaction. So I do own a gun. I do not yet have a gun carry permit. I do plan to get one. For myself, I don't actually intend to carry a gun out in public, but I do want to understand how the gun permit process works, just for my own edification and to gain a better understanding. I think what the caller said is true about the fact that most gun crimes are not committed by people who are permit holders. I think that is true. I don't know that it's necessarily accurate that all shootings are conducted by people who are already criminals or felons. As somebody who studies the issue, what we see is a lot of the crimes, a lot of shootings involve people who already know each other. They are, domestic related. It'll be family members shooting each other, people having arguments, neighbors shooting each other, and a lot of those people were legal gun owners. They weren't necessarily permit holders, but they were legal gun owners. So.
Yeah, a lot of people will point out when anyone talks about further gun control and issues like that, that it's like, look, I'm a responsible gun owner. I have it. I do things the right way. And like this case Monday that was so tragic involving Tamia, I mean, her father is a convicted felon who had a gun he shouldn't have had. But the truth is, these days, if you're a convicted felon or anyone else that wants to get a gun illegally, you're pretty much going to be able to do that. Well, and so how do you stop that? I mean, it's black market stuff. It's off the books. No one can watch these convicted felons 24/7 to make sure they're not going somewhere to get hold of a gun.
Well, my take on that is that obviously there's not any single law or policy that's going to forever prevent people who shouldn't have guns from being able to get them. There's always going to be a way for a bad guy to figure out a way to get a gun. But what I would say to that is, even understanding that, why are we not trying to do everything possible to make it as difficult as possible for that bad guy to be able to get a gun? The system that we have right now allows any private individual to sell a gun to another private individual without any requirement to check their background. So that means you can go to a gun show, and there are licensed dealers in the gun show, but then there are unlicensed folks sort of standing around, and there are people in the parking lots. And I know that for a fact because that's how I purchased my gun. There are also websites like armslist.com that allow you to connect buyers and sellers. It's sort of like Craigslist. And so, you find a gun that you're interested in buying from a private seller, you message back and forth, you meet them in a parking lot somewhere, and you give them cash and they give you a gun. And, there's no way to verify that the person you're selling that gun to is not a felon, is not a domestic violence offender, does not have an order of protection against them. And so, our thinking, and this is, I think, what the American people think, and even the majority of Tennesseans, is that if there are steps we can put in place to make it harder for those people to get guns, we should do so. In other words, we should eliminate the so-called gun show loophole. We should not allow private sales of guns to take place at gun shows. We should not allow private sales of guns to take place in parking lots, these sales facilitated by websites. So if you want to buy a gun and you want to go to a licensed dealer, if you want to go to a licensed pawn shop and go through a background check, or if we could even create a policy where private sellers and private buyers could transact and buy and sell guns to each other, but do it through an outside party that would do a background check, I would be okay with that as well.
Let's take a call now from Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hey, good morning, Nick, my friend. How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind, Paul? Good to hear from you.
All right, buddy. Look, I'll just put it out there. I am a Democrat. Now, I am not a Democrat that wants to abolish the Second Amendment. You have to have a constitutional amendment to abolish the Second Amendment. So that fear-mongering by the right that Hillary Clinton is going to take your guns, we all know that is just a fear-mongering tactic to drum up support for votes. Okay? Let's just tell it like it is. Now, as far as guns, look, I am for you having a shotgun. I'm for you having a rifle. I'm for you having a pistol responsibly, Nick. I am for that. But now I am against assault weapons. People should not have assault weapons. That is ridiculous. That is designed for the military, and it should not be in civilians' hands. Now, as far as the lady there, I don't want to attack her. I think she's a great lady with the way she's talking, but I heard that she purchased her gun through a sale. If it was up to me, Nick, that would be against the law, because she's right about that, and she addressed that. That is a loophole that needs to be closed. A gun sales like that require no background check like she bought hers, that should be closed. And also these stand your ground laws, like they have in Florida with that nutcase George Zimmerman. That gives people like that's insecure in their own self, Nick, reasons to shoot people without thinking. And those responsible gun laws need to be enacted. And I'm not for banning the Second Amendment. That's just ridiculous rhetoric talk. And my final comment is, Nick, look, I told you, buddy, Hillary Clinton is going to dominate this election. I see you, buddy.
All right, we will see. Hey, thank you, Paul, for that. I appreciate the call. Yeah, and well, he kind of answered the own question, and you did before that. You were able to buy it that way, and you're an advocate for maybe looking at ways to close that loophole, right?
Well, and the thing that's interesting is, I was able to walk into that gun show, find someone that wanted to sell a gun. I mean, I just walked up to him and said, do you have any guns that you're interested in selling? And the entire transaction, I was in and out in about 15 or 20 minutes. I mean, that's how quickly it took place. And I just wanted to, for my own knowledge, see how that worked and verify that it was that easy. And in fact, it was even easier than I thought it would be,
What'd
to
you
be
buy?
honest. 380 Ruger.
Okay, let's go to Greg next. Greg, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, Greg.
Just a typical bias show like usual. Why don't you have an expert on your show that every time she says the facts are this and the facts are that, the expert can say, no, the facts are not what you're saying. But it's the same thing as drugs. You're never going to stop people from buying drugs. You're never going to stop people from buying guns. If you pass laws to make it harder to buy guns, all you're doing is making it harder for citizens that are doing it the right way, that are not criminals, to buy guns. So therefore, since the law-abiding citizens it's harder for law-abiding citizens to buy guns because that's what you want. You don't want us to be armed. Then it makes it easier for the thugs and robbers to come to our house and shoot us or not even shoot us. They could just come in here with a machete or how about why don't we ban all trucks? Because, I mean, that guy ran over, 70 or 80 people in Russia or France with a truck. I mean, this is just utter nonsense. You're telling me that this is you just listen to the word, people. When you listen to the show, just listen how this is a fact, and that's a fact. And this statistic says this. Everything is all anti-gun. gun, is what you're saying. And then, oh, well, you're going to play the game that, well, I own a gun myself, but then I don't think other people should. I mean, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth here in the show, people.
Well,
you need to have someone else on the other side.
Oh, no, Greg, just be clear on this. Be real clear. We have John Harris on from the Tennessee Firearm Association all the time by himself, so you're wrong on that front. And two, I want to ask you, I'm just curious, Greg, I just want to know, day in, day out in your life, and I don't know what you do for a living, do you live in fear?
No, I don't live in fear at all, because I know God's on my side, and He'll protect me no matter what happens.
Then you don't need a gun, right? Okay, so you want to respond to what he was saying?
Well, I would just say that when I refer to facts, we rely on data that we obtain from the FBI, the TBI, and the CDC.
Everyone can kind of attack
I'm not
facts,
interested in rhetoric or overinflating numbers or statistics. We do a lot of, we review a lot of peer-reviewed academic research on the subject. And I would also say, I mean, nothing that we have said today, nothing that my organization supports, would prevent a law-abiding gun owner from being able to buy a gun for themselves. And I don't think that going to a gun store or a pawn shop or a licensed dealer at a gun show is too great of a burden to place on someone. And you know, if they want to purchase a gun and to go through a background check. And you know, in relation to comparing it to drugs, you know, that's true. You can make laws to make drugs illegal and people will still buy drugs, but we do have laws. I don't think anybody would advocate us making heroin legal, making prescription drugs legal. You know, those laws may not prevent all, you know, people from being able to buy all drugs, or, you know, laws might not prevent all prohibited purchasers from being prevented from buying guns, but we should at least take steps to try and make it difficult for people who shouldn't have guns to be able to buy them.
It is real interesting to me as we go to a break. You really have, you know, as you look at the argument and the debate over the gun issue, you have your extremes, obviously, and I think Greg's on one of them. There's some folks who I think if they had their druthers truly would have absolutely no gun regulation.
Right.
And they try to make an argument for that. And I do believe there's others on the other side that would say, you know, if I could snap my fingers, I'd get rid of all the guns in the country. And then I do believe the vast majority of Americans are somewhere in between there, that don't view some rational kind of control on some of these, you know, weapons and the way they're handled, making things safer, saying, you know, that, you know, background may not be a bad idea. There's a rational middle, I would think.
Yes.
And then you do have your extremes, and a lot of times they're the ones, you know, sometimes you hear the loudest. But I think the vast majority of Americans are somewhere in the middle there.
I agree.
And I certainly hope so. We're going to take a break on that note. When we come back, more of your calls right after this. Stay with us.